FC Cincinnati really dropped the ball this week by not launching their 2025 season tickets after that Miami match. I mean, every single one of you listening would have hit the buy button before you even looked at the price. I'm telling you, emotions are still running high in the Queen City as coworkers all around the city run up to the FCC guy in the office and they actually want to talk about soccer for once. That Miami 6-1 smashing specifically. Seriously, though, I had an engineer come up and want to talk to me about soccer today. I am still trying to get over it. FCC pick up 6 points and sit atop the table, change of formation, managing this roster. We have a bunch of fun items to talk about tonight. I'm Boston Brazel, joined by Bryan, Bill Taylor, and Brian Biedenbach, and you are listening to 380, the 380th episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Almost getting to that big 4-0-0. Waiting to see what kind of special things we can put together for that. All right, let's get the guys in here, give them a little bit of an introduction. They can hop right into their best and worst, and then we have a fun guest to go to right away tonight. Thanks for joining us, Brian Biedenbach, man. How you doing?
Hey, man, I am doing well. I just came off the soccer field watching my son play some high school camp games and stuff, so doing well there. Flying high after the Miami match this last weekend, so loving where we're at right now, sitting top of the table and showing Miami what's up, man. It was a fun match. I'm doing well. We're going right into best and worst. I'm gonna start with my best tonight, and I'm gonna say Lucho showing up as looking like he's topping his MVP status from last year. Our formation was different, and we'll talk about that. But Lucho showing up and doing the things Lucho does at a higher level than even we're used to seeing Lucho do it. I was loving that. The passes, the Rabona, he's spinning out of control, rolling the ball with his left foot to guy running down the flank on the right. Man, it's beautiful. My worst is that Messi wasn't on the pitch to compete. I know that's a thing. A lot of Cincinnati fans or people in Cincinnati were upset that Messi wasn't out there and paying lots of money to see him. But man, I think Lucho proved why he's the MVP in that match, and he looked really good. I just wish there's an asterisk on that game now because Messi wasn't on the field at the same time.
Only in your head, Brian. Only in your head. I don't have an asterisk. I mean, I do look forward to the one in the fall, though.
No doubt.
It'll be a blockbuster. All right, Bill Taylor back in action. What is this, your third show? Welcome in.
Hey, thank you very much. Glad to be here. Jumping right into the best. You know, I've been to a lot of home games at TQL, and I will tell you the environment was the most electric from start to finish that I had ever seen. So real props out to the FCC fan base. They really showed up. They really supported. I was surprised at the lack of Messi jerseys. Yeah, I saw a few Inter Miami fans here and there, young, old. You know, there wasn't really any bad talk or conversation going back and forth because, well, you saw what the result was. My worst, I'll actually go a little bit tactical here and go on the defensive side of the ball and our inability to defend goal side on set plays, right? The one goal that we surrendered, and you want Celentano to get a clean sheet. I'm going to say that that's kind of been a trend over the last few games, is our inability to mark on goal side and win that battle to keep the ball out of the net.
Thanks, Bill. And of course, the regular Brian Weigel. How you doing, bud?
Just like the other Brian, spending all evening out in 93, 94 degree temps, soccer field. So it was good. Nice to get back out there and get my club team sweating again. So I think my best of the week was just seeing Yuya Kubo and Luca Orshano up top. And I know we'll dig into it a little bit deeper, but seeing three guys, including Lucho, so in sync with pressing cues, knowing when to switch, knowing who needs to go up, Kubo drop back in the midfield to really lock down and just actually wreak havoc on their midfield and their passing. So I thought that was a tremendous piece of coaching and how to set up that group of guys on such a short period. My worst of the week's Boston's intro. Finally, FCC's water cooler talk, pal. I mean, come on. This is the Supporter Shield side. We're not Columbus. We're a mile deep, inch wide. No, I'm joking. I respect the hell out of Columbus. But come on, man. That's just not accurate, pal. We're
Oh,
all
it's just weird. It's just weird when like random people that don't know nothing about soccer come up to you. That's the only point I was trying to make there.
When my father and my uncle text me, we're on the same page, pal. Everybody's locked in because the Reds got swept by the Tigers. FCC's kicking butt. 12 out of last 14. Let's go.
Yeah. Some of the yours out there, Sean Pace saying his best, Assad, $90,000 emerging as a starter, letting Orshano shift in formation. Exactly.
I've called this the whole last 2 months, people. You've been needing to listen.
What a value find. I see a lot of there's no worsts, and yeah, you guys are right. It is a hard week to go be critical. I'm sure one of these guys will figure out a way, though. I'll start with my worst. I decided to pick this week to go to Tennessee to visit my parents, and so I had to watch that match from TV. And I mean, I've barely missed any games in 6-7 years of FC Cincinnati, and I had to pick the one where we just crushed goals every 10 minutes, and it killed me. It killed me to be on the couch and seeing Bill. You were talking about the atmosphere. It showed on television. Everybody, I felt like the fans are going to bounce through my TV into the floor in my Tennessee living room. So absolutely phenomenal showing by the Bailey this week, and crushed it. You know else who crushes it? Our sponsor for 2024 Apollo Home. The guys were joking with me before the show. I'm in a sweater. They said I had Apollo out, and must have got my air conditioner renewed because it's way too warm to be wearing a sweater. But I did not. I should. But if you need HVAC service, plumbing, or electrical, reach out to Apollo. Give them a call or book online at apollohome.com. And again, we appreciate their support here in 2024 Cincinnati Soccer Talk season. We're going to move quick today. We have a special guest coming on tonight. Mike Schroer, co-founder of Future Fans, got reached out to by you a couple weeks ago. And I think I even told you this, man. Like, we get all kinds of wacky emails in our inbox, but you actually had a pretty cool idea, pretty cool product. And I want you to tell a little bit about that. How'd you get started helping kids with soccer?
Yeah, so we'll get into the backstory a little bit, just for those listening. Future Fan Sports is a brand that helps little kids become big sports fans, and how we do that is through a storybook-led activity box that introduces a sport in a way kids understand. And we launched with our football product back in September, and we've just released our soccer product, which is now available in the FC Cincinnati team store. Yeah. And I'm a Cincinnati native, and the backstory of kind of how we got into this is tied to the Bengals. A couple years ago, they're making what I could only describe as a life-changing run to the Super Bowl. I'm at that first playoff win in 31 years. I'm hugging people I'm not hugging in any walk of life. And that was awesome, right? But the rest of that run to the Super Bowl after the Raiders game, I'm literally grounded at home. My wife is 36 weeks pregnant with our third. And my oldest, who was 5 at the time, Ella, she's super into the pageantry. She knows the fight song. She loves Skyline Dip. But the second the games came on, she was out of there. And so it was devastating for me to have these awesome, amazing games and not have somebody to share it with. And I had this flashback to 6 months prior. We had done this chess product that involved a storybook and teaching in indirect ways. And I'll give you an example. There was a king character that you read about in the book who's so big, he can only move one step at a time. Okay. And within 2 weeks, my 5-year-old and I could play a game of chess where she understood what every piece on that board could do. Well, back to the playoffs run, I'm like, chess is fine, but I care a lot more about sports and football, soccer, baseball, and the rest of them. And so kind of inspired by that, we created this brand, Future Fans, that helps kids understand sports in totally unique and in different ways.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out to us. So we appreciate it. How'd you get involved with FCC? Was it? I see you also have Columbus and LA Galaxy. So you're just really starting to make your inroads, and I think it's cool that FC Cincinnati is one of your first partners.
Yeah, FC Cincinnati's been awesome. Obviously, as a Cincinnati native, that was one of the first teams that we reached out to. The team has been awesome. And again, like if you think about what our product does, it creates a lifelong fan in a kid from a very young age by helping them understand the sport, right? Like that's what we do, but we do it in a totally unique way. Like we're not telling them, hey, here's how a goal kick works versus a corner kick. We tell them about this board game called flickball, where you're like flicking a ball between two posts, and if it hits something before it goes out, you get a corner roll where you try to ricochet it in, right? So kids play these kind of abstract games, not realizing that what they're learning are the underlying concepts to a sport. They then get crosswalked back to the sport in kind of this Karate Kid aha like moment. And then the kid has picked up an understanding, which really helps them unlock a deeper level of engagement in the game. And so as we got engaged with FC Cincinnati, they were like, absolutely love this concept. Let's figure out ways to help grow the fan base in Cincinnati. And that's why you see it in the team store and starting to talk to other teams, the LA Galaxy, around the integration around their kids club. And we've just gotten all kinds of traction from teams and leagues in football as well as soccer.
Can you teach adults the offside rule? Because we still have that problem.
Yeah. So like we take an interesting approach. We use a lot of rhymes and mnemonics throughout. And so there's a game that the kids are playing in the pool at camp. So all this is based, this storybook is based in this world of Camp Rallyhoo, and it's, soccer week. And on Monday, the counselor says like, hey kids, like I can teach you soccer with, this whiteboard and these binders, or we can play fun games, right? And the kids obviously are like fun games. Well, one of the games they play is this game in the pool called throw and go, where you have to throw it to your teammates and get the ball from one end of the pool to the other. Well, there's also a counselor at the other end of the pool who conveniently has his arms stretched out with pool noodles. Okay. And there's a simple rule. If you have a teammate past that point, then do not pass, right? And a kid says, so if they're passed, then do not pass, right? And it's kind of this call and response that we use to make it super simple, right? If your teammate's passed, then do not pass. And so again, it's a very complicated rule that in all these cases, right, we try to isolate it down to just one rule at a time and simplify the way that a kid can understand. And so obviously what you see on the screen here is a version of that flickball game that I described, where you're just kind of flicking the ball from one end to the other and trying to ricochet it in.
All I know is my wife cheats at every board game there is. So how are these kids going to beat my little butt at this game? And what's the desired age group? How young, how old? What's the target here?
Yeah,
can my wife learn soccer this way?
Yeah, we get that question a lot. I think it's a family experience. The ideal age range is 4 to 8, and the storybook's broken up into 6 sessions for soccer. Each session, you read a chapter or 2 of the storybook, and then you're directed to go open up a surprise within the box. So it's this kind of advent calendar-like experience where kids are highly motivated to keep going to get to all the surprises in the box, which was obviously by design. And just to kind of take it back to my daughter Ella, who I mentioned, in that Bengals Super Bowl run, a year later, Bengals making that run to the AFC Championship game. After we beat the Bills, I'm set to go to Kansas City to meet my brother. She says to me, Daddy, please don't go. All I want to do is watch the game with you. I canceled on my brother, who still went to Kansas City. She and I took in that heartbreak together on the couch. And at the end of the day, like that's what we're selling. We're selling a connection between adult and child from a young age. Like my 5-year-old was capable of understanding a sport like football or soccer, but not in the way that the SI for Kids books or like, frankly, me, like, right. I know a lot about these sports. Like I paused the TV, like it was getting nowhere. And so it was all about kind of going back to basics and trying to re-engineer a way that would make sense to a kid.
I love the concept that it's a family thing, that's a family experience. It's more than just teaching the kids a sport, but it's something that parents can gather around the table, play with their kids as they're learning, as they're doing something fun. I'm curious, you said you've got a couple additions like FC Cincinnati and Columbus. Is the goal to have it with all teams in the MLS, or these like special editions? Because I think that's something else kids can get behind. Like, this is my team. This is the team my dad or my mom supports or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. So that's the goal. Kind of, we see a glide path to getting there towards team licensing. When we dreamed up this product, like it was in team specific versions, right? The FCC version, the Bengals version, et cetera, right? From a business standpoint, licensing is expensive, hard to get out of the gates for an unproven concept, but that is absolutely on the roadmap and plan to get there.
Right. That's cool.
Cool. Well, we have a whole bunch to talk about tonight, so we thank you for stopping by and giving us a little bit of time as well. But how can FCC fans, find your product? What's the easiest way? If they're in the stadium, whatever.
Yeah, Stadium Store, the OTR store. We're in King Arthur's Court in Cincinnati as well, and then obviously on our website, and you can follow us on Instagram at Future Fans Sports.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. FC Cincinnati's jumping in here and trying to find ways to help our young ones get educated about soccer, and it's a cool product. And I thank you for stopping by, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All righty, and that's Mike. We did not get paid for that ad read or anything like that. We just think it's pretty cool that a Cincinnati born kid can come up and find cool ways to hang out with his family and connect and get out there and put something even in the FCC team store, man. Mike beat me. I don't have any products in the FCC team store. CST doesn't have any products in the FCC team store, but pretty cool concept by him to get that out there. So we'll go ahead and dive into I know everybody wants to talk about Miami, but technically we got 3 points in DC first. Bryan said I had to make this quick because he wants to steamroll into the good stuff. Really, you had some changes in that game. Luka went to right back. Yedlin went to left back. We had injuries. We didn't know how FC Cincinnati was going to be able to deal with the center back problems. And they did okay. I mean, it wasn't the world's greatest match, but they did okay. Any thoughts from you guys on this one?
I was interested to see the wingers both inverted with Yedlin and Luka. We've seen Luka out there. He does well. I was really curious to see how Yedlin did on the left side. I was glad to see him back on the right. Let's say that on Saturday against Miami, but did all right. I think that as I watched that game, it was a tale of two games for me, honestly. As I sat there, I watched, like, there wasn't a whole lot going on in my house. And I was sitting there watching the game, and it just felt like a slow match. It was quiet. There weren't a lot of fans there. And then fast forward to Saturday, it was a whole different environment. It was a lot of scoring, just a lot of excitement. So honestly, if I'm being real honest here, the DC match was a good game. I'm glad we came out a winner, but it was almost forgettable to me after the Miami match this last Saturday.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Completely, almost completely different though, night and day versions of a game, and really where you can't stop scoring in Miami, but in DC it's a little bit more of a drug. DC's the team that we drew earlier in the year, right? Like, I think was this our second match versus them?
I think so. I think was it a 0-0 draw the first time out?
Yeah. So kind of a weird trap game in that they're not a good team, and we kind of played down to their level a little bit. Bill, you got anything on this one before we move on?
It was, to me, I don't know. I was having like an anxiety attack through the whole thing because I knew we should win the match, but it just felt like DC wasn't going away and we weren't putting it away. So I was on the edge of my seat pretty much the entire game. The Miami game, no offense, at halftime, I'm feeling pretty much like it's over. So, that was a tale. I was really at a high stress level for that DC game because it was 3 that we should come away with. And I was really concerned about getting that 3 points.
Mm-hmm. But you know who won't forget this game? Pavel Buka. I mean, this was his coming out match, and then he kept the party rolling into Saturday. I don't know where that came from, but all of a sudden, a defensive midfielder is now out there just tearing things up. I mean, I guess he's not super defensive, but Buka 3 points in a 3 goals in a week. I mean, is this just a natural improvement of this position, Bryan, or is this just outperforming your role?
Well, I think we've said this the whole year that Pavel's been growing in every match. He's knowing when to get forward. I mean, let's be real. I mean, Obi is kind of settling in a little bit. Pavel making those little, those late runs to get those goals is wonderful to have. And you kind of needed somebody in that midfield to step up. Lucho didn't have his best game. I think Luka was clearly the best attacking player on the field on Wednesday. And, sometimes you just need those unsung heroes like Pavel, and the guy's leading the team in minutes. He's covering huge swaths of space over the whole field. So I'm glad to see him get some shine on him. And team of the week, I think, is what he was on there too. So, I mean, the guy's, another guy that's playing with more value than he's getting paid on this team, and that's super.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I love to see the fact that early in the season we were wondering who was going to score all our goals, and now we've got a guy that we weren't expecting to score goals to play in a more advanced position in that central midfield role, to get up and maybe balance between Lucho and Obi, but we didn't see goals coming from him, or we weren't counting on him.
No.
And then now we've got more guys on the pitch that are dangerous in different positions. It's a formation, maybe it's tactics. It's a guy that's just seeing space now and running into it.
Well, he's been doing this the whole season, even including the Miami match. Exceptional in the Miami match of progressing the ball forward and allowing us to keep possession. Like last year, how many times did we lose the possession battle and not dictate games? And it's tough to kill off FC Cincinnati when Pavel and Obi are pulling the right strings, getting the ball up the field, getting into space. I wish they'd find Kevin Kelsey a little bit more, but he also created the first goal that set the tone on the match. Kevin did, with just his work rate and hustle and putting that foot out there. DC's keepers must be just a travesty of a situation, I'm hearing. But I mean, overall, our guys had a tough match on the weekend. They come in, they beat DC, and then set the table for a huge night in TQL.
Yeah, it's just truly impressive, I think, by FC Cincinnati to weather that storm in DC. And Kevin Kelsey, you mentioned it, set the pace, but honestly, that goal is the difference there. It's the only reason you don't leave with a draw, because of his hustle and his work rate there.
And you see it in Miami too. I mean, think about this. We played 100-degree temps in Dallas. They had to fly back all the way to the East Coast to DC, midweek game, empty place. And just to have that fire is also another testament to, I'm sure what we'll talk about later, how great our staff is at the moment.
As far as Kelsey's, he set the pace. His work rate was great. We've talked about that. There's games that I feel like he doesn't necessarily mail it in, but I don't feel like he shows that same work rate in every match that he's in. I know he's young and I know he's growing into that position. So when he shows those flashes of speed, that work rate to chase that ball down, get in front of the keeper, to get in open spaces, I love seeing it. I just want to see it more consistently, but he was good in that DC match.
Well, Taylor Twellman said, he's been nowhere this season, and I don't know if you guys caught the TV commentary. It's like he forgot he played on Wednesday, and he was talking about how non-existent Kevin Kelsey's been, and I'm screaming at my TV he scored Wednesday. What are you talking about? And then he said, "Oh, and he hasn't scored anything in this match." And I was like, "He just subbed on."
I think that was to the point where you have such an important player like Kelsey and a lot of promise, and then in your quote unquote, they're going to set the narrative, but the game of the season to date, he got put on the bench, and they're trying to build a case with that. That's a big mental test for Kelsey, and I'm interested to see what he does this week for sure. I can't imagine that we're not going to move Kubo back to that midfield.
No, that would be a bad move. No, he looked much better up front.
Oh man, yeah, but you got Obi out, so you got to make some kind of shuffles here, so we'll get into that, I guess, a little bit. I will say one thing: when you look around the league, there are a lot of there's like a 6 or 7 teams that are really just a cut above the rest. And in my opinion, Cincinnati and Columbus, the 2 Ohio teams, have really complete teams. to your point, Bryan, you said a few minutes ago that FC Cincinnati has like so many ways to hurt you, so many ways to score. You can't just take Acosta out of the game. You can't just take Orishano out of the game because you still have to worry about Kevin Kelsey, and now you got to worry about Buka, and you got to worry about Kubo, and it'll come at you every which way. Yedlin's going to make a crazy across the field pass right on the money, and Columbus is a lot like that. They had 4 different goal scorers in their match. Everybody else, it's not so clear cut. I mean, you got RSL very much, one player doing a great job. Miami, obviously, it's the Messi show, and he's got a couple buddies there with him, but I really like the completeness of the Ohio teams, and because of that, I think they're dangerous. Both of them are pretty dangerous to play any given week, and I'm looking forward to this week's matchup, Columbus versus LAFC, and we're finally going to see like which one comes out on top there. We're spoiled, man. Cincinnati versus Miami, and then Columbus versus LAFC back-to-back weeks. Those are blockbuster matches.
Boston, I noticed though, as you talk about our complete team, the only defender you mentioned was Yedlin and his that was conveniently absent from that conversation.
You got to score more. Just put them in the what's everybody's calling it, the sword formation, the Gary sword formation, and attack with Kubo at the hilt.
I hear the best defense is a great offense. That's what I hear.
Yeah, it seems to work. All right, let's give a shout out to Beyond Exercise, local physical therapy and fitness business that helps anyone get active and stay active. They've helped Nick Hagelin. They've helped Brandon Vasquez. They do all the physical therapy and strength training needs during off seasons. Ask the fellas at Beyond Exercise about their ACL injury prevention screen, which was piloted with Nick and Brandon. Learn more at gobeyondexercise.com. We have some fans in the chat that have been going there ever since Beyond's been a big sponsor of CST, and they consistently say it is pretty awesome. So that's the CST fan review. You can see those in our live stream from time to time. So shout out to Beyond Exercise. You can also get a hold of us at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Feedback at Cincinnati Soccer Talk is our email. We love taking your emails and passing them along to whichever place you need to go. All right, let's talk about what everybody's been waiting for. Miami can't handle the smoke. Did the Bailey run out of smoke? How many smoke bombs do they keep in stock over there? You got to wonder. Completely new formation. Weigel, can you dive into that? What was Noonan thinking here? I almost had a heart attack when I first saw it.
I don't know what he was thinking. I mean, switching Luka midweek, changing it to where Luka's like a second forward with Kubo up top. I think everybody's kind of scratching their head. But it was kind of brilliant. When you think about, okay, Miami's going to roll out these 4 slow fullbacks. And you had these 3 guys that were extremely technical, knew when to press, knew to, basically get these guys in their back heel, which would create more space and more runs for different players on the pitch, and it made them pay. Kubo is tearing it up right now for FC Cincinnati. I mean, he's 1 goal away from having 10 goals on the year. But I think it kind of boils down to having 2 extremely technical players in Lucho and Luka being able to just exploit weaknesses on this team. And it's almost like, do we move Luka back to a fullback role? I know I love you. I know I love Assad. I think we need a little bit more depth in the fullback room right now. But man, I mean, just having these 2 Argentinian dudes just sauce these guys. It's really interesting to see how we're going to attack teams later on in the year.
Yeah, Acosta's goal especially just broke multiple ankles.
Oh, he made the whole game made Busquets look silly.
He nutmegged him.
He looked at him. He stared him down and just put the ball through his legs and ran around him. It was beautiful. And then put him on skates on that goal. Yeah, so about Luka playing in that midfield role. He comes in a lot from either wing. He likes to play in the middle of the field. And we saw when he was starting on that left wing back position, he would slot into the middle and it would push Lucho out because we needed somebody wide. To have those two in attacking roles in the middle and to be able to bring on a guy like Yamil Assad to run that left flank and Yedlin down the right, that we know we have guys that, yeah, we need depth there. We know that we can slot or Shano back there if we need to. But man, to have him and Lucho in the midfield, I was stoked to see those two and then Kubo, because it's a much more fluid offense. We saw that. It's a much more fluid offense. We've got a target player now that we had been missing in Kevin Kelsey, but that's not the style we typically play, is those crosses in from the wing to hit a tall target player, making a run to the near post or the far post. We play fluid soccer through the midfield. And so those three in the middle are about the most fluid guys that we have. And to be able to bring Dotto into the mix late in the game, man, I loved seeing that. I hope to see it again, but I know we got to move Kubo back for the next match.
I'm not sold, and Bill, please debate me on this. I'm not sold that this is our formation for the future. I think it's just another arrow in the quiver, I guess you could say. Maybe it's a way where, we're going to be able to go at teams to break them down. And if they're sitting in a low block, I feel like it could be maybe a little bit susceptible to counterattacks, but I mean, it's exciting that teams are going to prepare for either scenario now.
And it was kind of brought up earlier about what Noonan and the staff are doing, right? I think he's getting different looks. The substitutions were spot on. He's moving players around, seeing what they can do and where they can do it. And Orejano, his speed with the ball, I mean, he's got it. He's one of the fastest I've ever seen with the ball. I mean, he can turn the corner. He can put it in the middle. I mean, he outraces the defenders down the side. That adds another bit of depth and dimension to the team. And I will tell you one thing is that confidence can be deadly. And right now, FC's got all the confidence in the world. So everybody that went out on the pitch on Saturday looked comfortable and looked like they were capable of playing the position they were in. So, Bryan, to your point, do I think this is the formation the rest of the year? Absolutely not. But do I think it was a good look and a good movement of people? Yeah, absolutely. I think Noonan and staff did a fantastic job with that starting lineup and then manipulating the way the players moved around the field.
But Miami didn't have all their players, like this is what I've seen coming out of certain MLS circles, mainly Southern MLS circles, just saying, well, no Messi, no Jordi Alba, no Suarez. This game didn't count. It doesn't matter. FC Cincinnati could never possibly beat Miami fully loaded. Does it matter, or is it just a wash?
Listen, Messi is a game changer, but he's not a 6-1 game changer. I don't think. We put the pressure on that match. And that's what I mean. I think early on when I said that was my worst, that Messi wasn't out there, Lucho came to prove a point in this match. And I think he proved his point. And I just wish Messi is Messi, and Messi's going to do Messi things. And my dogs are barking. I apologize for that. But Lucho came to play and came to make a point, and he did just that. And I just would have loved to see full strength Miami out there. I still think Cincinnati comes away with this W. Maybe it's 3-1, maybe it's 4-2. I don't know. Cincinnati played to win that match. And that's the only thing I'm upset about, is they weren't there full strength. But man, I don't think we're losing. I don't think we're dropping those points.
The last time I checked, Messi didn't play a lot of defense. So, I mean, if we're going to put 4, 5, 6 goals up, I don't think Messi and Suarez changed the outcome of that match in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I think we came at him so strong and so targeted. But they've been susceptible to allowing goals all year, right? So Noonan took advantage of that, and I think that's why the lineup was the starting lineup and the way it was, and it worked out. Brilliant.
I'm forgetting his name. The older center back for Miami, gray beard, gray hair. What is it? Christoph? Yeah. When I think he took out Orishano at one point, and to see just the youth and the speed come back up off the pitch, and Christoph just looked completely defeated. I just wish I had that moment captured. Like it was the story of the match right there.
Yeah, I think even Miami fans will admit that their back line and their center backs are not very strong. In fact, in that way, FCC and Miami are a little paralleled right now because we're hurt and we've lost 2, and they've never had a good defense all year. They just have outscored their opponents. But even without Messi and having some of the other guys like Jordi Alba, they have been getting scored on, and they've just made a couple miraculous comebacks, and they've played, coming back from behind on this 4-game win streak that they've had without Messi. So Bryan, in that way, I agree with you. They've had weapons all year, and yet they continue to have to come back in games, which they have the offensive firepower to do. So does Cincinnati. So we're more similar, I think, than dissimilar. But I'm with you. I wish we'd played the real one, and we will. Either way, I'm not going to cry about these 3 points and the very easily 3 points that we got in this match. I guess we talked about Buka and his star role this week. Another player that we've been looking to blossom even further is Yamil Assad. And we finally got to see him show his stuff and a little bit of creativity. And his goal had to have been from a very, very hard angle, because I couldn't believe that went in when it went in.
No doubt, but the keeper was laying on the ground. He had already beaten him. So it was an open net with a center back running towards it. So worth a shot.
Assad is a great 60-minute player. I am very excited that we have him. I think our depth in that role is significantly better than it was last year, but I still kind of want another option in the fullback room. But I mean, there's nothing that can deny, though, just the chemistry and the decision making that he has with Luka, with Kubo, with Lucho, and that's exceptional. It's just a veteran that's on little money, 86,000 or whatever it is. It's a crime that we got him as a free agent. But yeah, I mean, it's you need these guys to have a chip on their shoulder and get up for these big games. I mean, he's been locked in. He's giving his full effort, and I know that was kind of a knock on him in the past, and I'm just glad that we can harness it to the success that we're having with him right now. But I've heard some people say, "Oh, let's just leave him as our starter." Let's be very hesitant with that at this moment.
Mm. It would have been interesting to see with Jordi Alba on that right side for Miami, how that would have played out, because he's not the strongest defender. You're right, but he does advance the ball well. He has the chemistry. He has the vision. But yeah, if you mentioned being susceptible to counterattacks, playing in the formation we are, we didn't have to worry too much about that this match. I don't think. But yeah, you're right. To see he's not the fastest player out on the pitch either. So we get that counter as he moves up high. Yeah, this was the game to start him. See what he could do.
Yeah, there were a few open nets, Bryan, to be fair. I mean, I think this score could have been 8-3 if everybody hit their open nets. I think you're looking around 8-3 instead of 6-1. I like 6-1 better. It just rolls off the tongue a little bit more.
The disrespect to Roman Celentano, I'll tell you what, right now. Actually, another shocking thing to me is how, and this has been, I think, a theme for Miami this year, is Drake Calendar's kind of fallen off a little bit. His decision. I mean, this is a guy that started a January camp game over Roman and was trending very high. They have a problem in that goalkeeping area, I think, right now.
Yeah, it's a good shout. All right, Jay Yates asks on Facebook, did the Miami coach really try to dress down Lucho for playing hard at the end of the game?
He should dress down Pat Noonan for not subbing out Lucho, because that's what I was doing.
Yeah, if Jay, if you go watch the post-game comments, they're kind of hard to find, but usually you can find them on FC Cincinnati's website or YouTube channel. There is a touch on this, and yes, Miami's coach did kind of give Lucho crap about not running up the score, but trying to get the 7th, I believe. But someone else made a really good point. Wins is the differential in Major League Soccer, but if you have the same wins as a team and you have the same points at the end of the season, then it goes to goal differential. And in this match, FC Cincinnati stole goal differential from Miami. And so that's something that, Tata just needs to take his medicine and sit down and calm down, because it matters. It really does matter. And if FCC won 8-1, they would be in their best interest to do so. Anyone have an opposite take there?
Yeah, well, Miami has to forget about that match. They just have to completely put it behind them like it never happened, it never existed, and they've got to move forward. And that's going to be their burden right now, is to see how they come back from that type of match where you lose by 5. That really is inexcusable in the MLS. You went from the best of the best to the worst of the worst. Miami was winning without Messi and Suarez, and they were scoring goals, and then they come to Cincinnati and get totally torched. So I'm interested to see how Miami bounces back from this.
This isn't Little League. This isn't, rec soccer, where you have a team that completely outshines beginning of the season to end of season, the lowest of the bottom of the barrel teams, right? This was 1 and 2 in second place, showing what they could do on the pitch. You've got momentum, you've got the fans, you're at home, people are screaming, people are cheering. You're not gonna pull the plug on that momentum, especially again if goal differential matters, and the game that gave you goal differential at the end of the season is the team that was beating you earlier in the season. You can't pull your foot off the pedal at that point.
I don't remember crying about this when Minnesota beat us 7-1 back in the day. Remember that? I just don't remember.
We were crying. Not about.
There were a lot of tears. We were
saying Forrest Lasso's not as good as we thought he was.
And I don't remember our coaches pitching a fit with Minnesota. I think that's a weird take from somebody who probably just had a bad day and acted in the moment. But yeah, I hope Lucho told him to shove it. In probably a more polite manner. Is this? Can we do this again? Winning 6-1, scoring all those chances we should for the most part. FC Cincinnati has yet to have a 6-goal game this season. This is the first one, and I know we have really another 30% of our season left. Are we looking at possible more of the sames?
To your point, that game could have been worse. We could have scored more very easily. So can we again? Should we? Probably not. Can we? Absolutely. I think it can happen again. But, I keep in the back of my mind, I keep thinking, the New England Revolution game at home. And I'm like, the difference between the two clubs, almost imperceptible, that we lose to the Revolution and then beat Miami 6-1. So it's been a great season. It's been very interesting, very exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, confidence. Once again, back to the confidence factor. And look, it's not like one guy scored all 6 goals, right? It was spread around. Nobody had a hat trick. It just seems like we have a lot of weapons working in our favor right now, and we just have to kind of ride the wave and pray the injury bug stays away from here on out.
I just weighing in on that. I think it's possible. I think, gosh, with the firepower that we have and the chemistry that is finally being built that we're seeing consistently, yeah, I think we can score more goals. I think we have our chances. We put a lot over the net. We put a lot wide. We get in the box a lot, but we've got the guys getting in the box now that are putting it away.
Yeah, FC Cincinnati. It's a new formation, so if we go back to the old one, I don't think we're scoring. 6'1".
Hard to do that with 5 guys in the back. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think I'm with Bryan. The tried and true will be the one I think we see more often. And when Noonan sees a chance to strike, we might see a little bit of the fun stuff we saw this weekend. I'm kind of bummed FC Cincinnati's home, not because I'm excited to go to a game, but they're on the verge of an MLS road record. And one more road win, not to jinx it. I'm knocking on. This is a wood table, so we're good there. But one more win on the road, and they will take the MLS record for road wins straight in a league that has the one of the hardest home, to overcome a home advantage in all of the major league sports in America. So that's truly something.
We'll have Obi back though for that.
That's a good point.
Cool.
That's a good point. And I'm glad you brought that up because I had skipped right over it. Obi, we had 4 players on yellow card watch. Obi being the only one that got it. So if you're gonna, my wish was that we'd space it out, and I think we got our wish that we're gonna space it out a little bit here. Luckily, Acosta's not one of those players that he must have had one fall off at some point, which is pretty nice. But yeah, we'll still have at least 3 players. I haven't looked to see if anybody else has been added to the watch versus Charlotte, and then I think you just want to try to. I don't know if Noonan plans those or scheduled those around opponents. Probably not, but just something to keep an eye out if you're an FC Cincinnati fan. What do you think Pat Noonan's going to do, Bill, about Obi being out? What would you do?
If it were me and we're talking about Charlotte, I go back to the old tried and true lineup. I go with a more defensive posture and then take our chances on transition. And Bryan says, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Best defense is a great offense, right?
Dude, they're terrible. They're the worst, one of the worst offenses in MLS, and they lost their starting striker to a red card for this match. So this is like the best of both worlds. Like they're playing a scrub in the midfield. Now he lived in the same town, or I got to see him play as a kid. So that's, whatever. But yeah, there's no excuse for this game, even without Obi. And it's the perfect scenario that we would be playing these guys this weekend. I mean, they let's see. I'm looking at the goals for 24 in 22 matches. They are the worst offense in Major League, or in at least the Eastern Conference.
In DC, I remember the DC match on Wednesday. We took a very defensive stance. I just think it's a little easier when you think you can seize the opportunity down the field. But, we've only got less than a week to wait to watch this match. I know I'll be there, watching and cheering them on in person. So I'm really looking forward to it, especially after that Miami game and seeing how we come back. And I'd love to see what the lineup is when I sit down in my seat.
Well, yeah. So question on that. I assume we're moving Kubo back into that role to fill the spot with Obi. And we maybe push Orshano back out to the wing. Hey, I got my thumbs up going on again here on the screen. How about that? And then who else do you start? Do we see Kelsey again up top? Do we see Bupenza get a start again against Charlotte? What do we see formation wise coming up this weekend?
Who'd you say there?
I wasn't going to bring it up, guys. I wasn't going to bring it up. I swear.
Well, this sounds crazy because it's a week till Charlotte, but you got to remember that we're going to do another triple. It's going to be Charlotte, Chicago, New York, and so whatever you do, there's probably going to be a little bit of rotation. If Kubo is playing back in a spot to fill out Obi's role, then I do think you see Kevin Kelsey, and then whatever happens in that game will probably dictate what we do in the next one. Is Kubo back up top versus Chicago away at Chicago? I don't know. Who gets yellow card suspended? Who doesn't? You got to manage 3 games, so I think we're going to see 3 different lineups in all three of those, and Noonan's just going to have to figure out a way to navigate through it. I mean, I'm happy to be playing Charlotte, Chicago first. I'm not going to take anything for granted because I used to be happy to play New England, and that didn't work out well.
But how great, Kubo's the guy we've moved all over the pitch. He's been so versatile. Now we've seen Orishano do a little bit of that, from playing left wing back to right wing back to now in a striker, or kind of a second number 10 position, to have him come in, start on as one of the wing backs, Kubo there in the midfield, and maybe late in the game you bring Assad in and you push Orishano up because the firepower that he brings. I think it gives us a couple options there, even late in the game, to even change that formation.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. Noonan's not afraid to shake it up. I mean, you could see Orishano flip fields. There's what's cool about FC Cincinnati is that there are so many different ways you can do it now, and the discipline. And we were talking about the even the ability to flip to a new formation versus Miami and roll out there and play like that just shows the level of discipline Pat Noonan has got this lineup rolling at. So, I mean, I think that touches to your point. We'll see a lot of rotation here in 3 games, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun. I bet Lucho's out there for all 3, though.
I dare you to try and sit him.
And I bet he's not playing the back line either. There you go. There's another sure thing.
There's a little bit of pressure behind the boys now. I mean, FC Cincinnati, we've been chasing that top spot in the standings for months. And not for a lack of trying. It's just that Miami had played so many more games than FC Cincinnati. This was the cool switching moment. I mean, how about that FCC admin with the cool graphic right after the game, by the way? But can we hold on to it? We got a Chicago, Charlotte, and New York, bam, bam, bam. You got the Crew chasing us. You got LA chasing us, and you got Miami 1 game away from taking it right back.
I really don't think we're going to win the Supporters Shield this year. I think LAFC, Real Salt Lake have a much easier pathway. That being said, I mean, we just keep doing what we're doing. I mean, there's never a game where we're not, chasing the result. Some teams go in there just to make life rough. We'll see that versus Charlotte this weekend. I mean, they're going to bunker the heck out of everything. They don't get out of their shape. So it's up to us to keep experimenting and finding different ways, and that makes us better in the long run. So I'm excited to see if we can keep doing things like this with Pat Noonan, changing stuff up.
Look, I didn't even think we'd be having this conversation. We lost Miazga and then we lost Haglund, and somehow they keep finding ways to do it. And so, I don't know if we'll hold it, if we'll win it. I would have told you 3 weeks ago, I didn't think we'd be in this situation where we would have overtaken Miami in the Miami match as Supporters Shield winners, because we were all banking on Miami to drop some games, and they never did. We were expecting we would drop some games without that back line, and we just haven't done it. So will we win it? I don't know. Can we hang on to it for a little bit longer? I wouldn't expect us to, but didn't expect us to be here at this point.
I'm going to chime in with, I'm looking at Charlotte. Past that, I'm not seeing anything. I'm taking it 1 game at a time, and the chips fall where they may at the end. Is the Supporter Shield the ultimate goal? I don't think so. I think it's the MLS Cup, right? I mean, that's what I heard last year, and I was like, well, Supporter Shield, but, I think the ultimate goal has got to be the Cup. But, to Bryan's point, I think you said, it might have been you, Boston, like there are 6 or 7 cream of the crop squads out there right now, and we're fortunate to be one of them. But it's I'm sure Noonan is taking it as a 1 game at a time mentality, and hopefully the players are kind of looking at it the same way as well. We have to come out strong and healthy every match.
What I love about it this year, and I think the Supporter Shield might actually end up mattering more because there is such a good race for it. Like, I think this is what you want if you're an average MLS fan, that there's 6 or 7 teams that are just going to be chasing balls to the walls, going for the glory of the Supporter Shield this year. And that might really up its standing. Honestly, I think that this race is harder. It's a lot harder than winning MLS Cup will be. So in my eyes, I do like it from that. Bryan, you cut clips for us, so I just want to make a note that at 9 minutes, about at a 9:53 or 53 minutes in, Bryan said we would not win the Supporters Shield. If you can cut that out and save it for me, for the
People
end
are all
just,
hating
just
my
in case.
people are hating my takes today. I said it's okay to let Noonan walk if he gets the U.S. men's national. I'm not worried about things like this because I think we have a good base. So I don't think it's on us. I mean, I think we're going to lose games, and it's going to be integrating new players. I mean, I don't know,
But
who knows?
Weston McKinney's coming, right? He's gonna.
Tommy Scoop said talk has cooled. Did you see that?
I did, yeah.
Weston McKinney might be off. But apparently, Chris Albright's been talking to several players, and we've talked ad nauseum, so we're not going to get into it again about obviously the center back role and how that might have shifted things. So that's a big thing of it. Bryan, you brought up the U.S. men's national team, so we got to talk about the Olympics, right? Big news today coming out of camp. I think some fans are really torn on this. You want your player to represent your country, but FC Cincinnati could have turned this down. Miles Robinson plays for the United States men's national team in the Olympics. Several teams across Major League Soccer said no to their players being in the Olympics. Several teams abroad said no. So the USA, Team USA was really looking for players that really wanted to be there and go towards it. Miles obviously wants to be there, or else I think FC Cincinnati would have kept him back. But excited to watch the Olympics now.
I think we should have not let him go. I think that's kind of foolish on our end.
What if Miles wants to play for it? Because I really think
we're paying him $1.6 million. Tough. That he's got his gold medal. It's in his checkbook. Jeez.
I didn't see this coming.
Oh man. I think it's hard. I'll take the other side of that. I think it's hard to deny a player an opportunity to play for their country in the Olympics. Is the Olympics the same as, Copa America? No, but to be away for Copa and to sit on the bench and watch and not even have an opportunity, I think really sucks. I think if he had his opportunity there, maybe this wouldn't be a conversation. Maybe he'd stay in camp. But to be there and watch your team play the way they did and not even get a shot, I think Noonan's given him an opportunity.
If they let us hold on to him as long as we can and ship him out after Chicago, great for us.
He misses how many matches? Let's say they go the Gold Cup game. Let's just say
two.
Just two?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need it for Leagues Cup. I think we need to let that ship sail, even though I'm one of the biggest Leagues Cup homers there is. I'm taking like 50 people to one of the Leagues Cup games, doing my part to support the best contest we get to play in that's not MLS related. No, I think people have seen my tweets on there. I think it's a good move for FCC to make a player feel happy. I wish we didn't have to do it. But that being said, I think there's probably some sort of conversations that went on with Miles to get him to sign here. Hey, we'll let you pursue your international dreams and to get that additional exposure. It is difficult for me to think we're making this move to allow him his personal or his professional aspirations versus, what we need him to do for his very high salary. So tough to swallow. But I hope he does well, and maybe we can lock in that option after the Olympics and somebody comes in and gives us $10 million. Dream scenario. Let's do it. People are overpaying for American defenders right now, Chelsea. Mm-hmm. So
fair enough.
That was
all
a
right.
lot.
Before we get into your final thoughts, we'll answer Clifford's question because it's a cool one. Fun question. Next 3 games: Charlotte, Chicago, New York Red Bulls. Who are we most likely to lose to, if any?
I'll take it, man. Charlotte's a mess. Chicago's a mess. It's obviously, I got to feel that the Red Bulls are going to be the most competitive, especially if we, obviously we're playing without our starting center back who was pretty stone solid against Miami.
I agree. I think Red Bulls are the team we fear the most in these next 3 matches anyway, if we fear anyone. Those games are just brutal. It's a street fight out there every time we play them, and we're already down players. So, yeah, I think that's the one, if any, we drop.
New York just lost Frankie Maya, and they just went down another major player. I'm trying to remember which one. It's slipping my brain in a second, but I saw that they've lost two starters with Frankie, and then whoever's missing my brain right now. But
Tolkien
yeah.
just got a call to play.
Oh, that's what it is. That's probably what it is.
No, you're thinking of oh shoot, what's his name right now?
See,
Emil
you're
Forsberg.
blanking too.
I said Emil Forsberg. Jeez.
So yeah, so I mean it's looking better than the last New York Red Bull game. Does that change your opinion at all now?
It's still a battle. It's still a battle. Like I don't like when Frankie scores on us, so I'll be glad that he's not on the pitch in this one, but it's still a brutal, knockdown, drag out game every time, and missing the guys that we are is gonna, I don't know, is gonna pose a challenge. That Miazga brought some craziness to that match. Brought some toughness, brought some in your face. Who's gonna do that on our back line this time? I don't know.
Yeah, Charlotte's in 6th place. That's my answer. It's just a table standings issue, so I'm gonna give it to them. And New York Red Bulls, I think, is going to start falling down the table. But that's just my weird 2 cents. They had some glue. They had some glue on that team. I think they're starting to come unraveled, unless they pick up players in the break. FC Cincinnati obviously needs some center back help. So keep an eye on the news and the signings. I would imagine Tommy Scoops will be hard at work here in the next few days, along with our local beat reporters, trying to figure out what's going to happen there. Let's get into your final thoughts. The hour has flown by, and so we're going to have to wrap it up. We'll start with you, Bryan Weigel, since I left you for last at the top.
I don't know if I have a final thought. I do like Bill's point earlier, just kind of look to that next game, but enjoy what we had this weekend versus Miami. Every game's not going to go that way. We're going to have howlers, but take it all in stride. You beat a good team that had a significant amount of exceptional players out, but they still had a very high valued roster on the pitch. So bring it. I think that Bailey was tremendous this past weekend. You could hear it on the TV, and can't wait to be at TQL this Saturday. So,
Yep. Thanks for joining. Appreciate your thoughts. We'll stay in the Bryan sphere and go to Biedenbach.
Yeah, I'll be at the game this Saturday too, so I'm excited to be there. I think just kind of wrapping up the whole conversation tonight about formation and that game against Miami. I guess my final thought is I would love to see that lineup roll out a little bit, maybe not as our go-to, but roll out a little bit more often. I just think there's a lot of fluidity in that, guys, 3 guys up top that can press, that understand each other and understand each other's movements more than we've had. So I'd really like to see that. I really don't think we're going to see that against Charlotte this weekend. And I'm okay with that. I'd really like to see Kevin Kelsey play up close and personal too. So yeah, just look forward to the match this next weekend and being at TQL for the 3rd or 4th time this season already, which is pretty fantastic for me.
Oh, awesome. Well, come say hi. I'll be there. Catching back up off of my missed game spree there. All right, Bill, thanks for being on. You've been a pleasant addition to CST, and I think our listeners would agree. Give us your final thoughts.
So my final thoughts are going to be Noonan did a fantastic job of managing minutes, and I think that's what he's got to do for the next several matches. I think he has to manage minutes. I think he's going to have to sub. He's going to have to use all his subs, and he's going to have to keep the legs fresh throughout, especially this next 3-game stretch. Very important.
Yes, indeed. My final thoughts. Thank you guys that support CST. I'm going to do it right. I've been slipping these last few weeks. I haven't been reading out names, but we've got a good group over on Patreon that keeps our show running, our website running, our photographers shooting photos. And so a big shout out to everybody over there. We had a brand new one this week. So big shout out to Daniel Hammer for coming on board and supporting our content, whether it's the podcast or website or galleries or whatever he enjoys. He keeps it available for everybody else in the FC Cincinnati land. And so we appreciate you, Daniel. We'll do you up big next week along with everybody else. And that's my promise. We'll make it more of a top of the show thing than a bottom of the show thing, and give you guys your due. And we appreciate you once again. Thanks for listening to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. FC Cincinnati on the top of the world. We're up there too, celebrating and partying. We hope to be back with you next week. Win, lose, or draw, I think we're all still going to be a pretty happy bunch with a winning team. So see you again next week.